Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today with our great panel. And we'll be discussing the topic of global supplier diversity. And we will explore how this works, what it's about, and why it matters. So why are we here today? So Creative Culture is a women-owned business certified by We Connect International. We specialize in cross-cultural intelligence and sensitivity, and as such, we are all very passionate about DE&I and how this affiliates and infiltrates within organizations and at a global level. And this is represented through the work we do with clients, but also through some of the initiatives that we lead, such as the one today. So our journey with We Connect International started 3 years ago or so. As we onboarded, we realized that a lot of our clients globally were members, corporate members of We Connect International, which meant they had supplier diversity programs in place. And yet when we spoke to a lot of our stakeholders within the organizations and various budget holders, they had no idea. They hadn't heard of We Connect before. They didn't know that this was in place in their organization. So we thought it would be a really good opportunity to discuss this topic, open up a bit more about the various angles, what are the opportunities, how the different stakeholders and organizations can benefit, and so on. Perhaps to open the floor, I would like to ask Deaneesha, Javette, and Peter perhaps to give us a bit of background on the initiatives that you lead within your organizations.
Deaneesha Govender. I've been with Intel for 16 years. I actually have two roles at Intel. One is leading strategic sourcing initiatives for social media and influencer marketing for global. And the other, which I've spent half of my career focusing on, is supply diversity and inclusion. Supply diversity and inclusion is near and dear to my heart. I'm from South Africa. I think everybody knows South Africa's history. And so, that passion comes from, trying to make sure that we do the right things for, people that have been previously disadvantaged. And I think a big part of that is how do we grow diverse businesses? So our journey at Intel started in diversity and inclusion back in 1998. It launched officially in the US. And we've been growing and building our diversity and inclusion in the international space, which is across Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific, and China since 2008.
I'm Javette Hines, and I've been at Citi for 14 years, actually, as of January. And our program has been in place since 1977. When I arrived at Citi in 2008, it was to manage supplier diversity and really figure out how to make it a world-class program. And then eventually sustainability was actually added during that same year, May. So it's been a very long journey to get to where we are now, but a wonderful and humbling journey. Going from a company looking at supplier diversity in place for a long time, but still an opportunity to grow, to really take a look at, the data and the detail, the existing suppliers, but the need to understand that there was some more growth that needed to occur.
So my name is Peter Zerp. I'm based out of Amsterdam. I'm part of a team that runs Accenture's Global Responsible Buying, Supply Inclusion and Sustainability Program. And I just found out that we're the youngest of the three. We started in 2002 with our program, also only in the US at the time, but we decided in 2009 to go global. And that's also where we co-founded We Connect International as our global partner for connecting with women-owned businesses around the world. Since then, we have grown our program into 21 countries. And you can think of Accenture is active in 120 countries, but it's still only 21 countries. And there's a reason for that, is because we really want to look at where can we make the best impact, the most impact. And that could mean that Accenture has a large operation, we have a considerable supply chain, we have local leadership engagement, very important to have your leadership engaged into this, being the sponsor of your program, but also people on the ground who understand the local market, the language, the culture, and can help you really drive that program. So we really need to check all these boxes to make sure that, that we start well, get the right kind of ecosystem partner like a We Connect or a local organization to help you find the diverse businesses. So if we have all these ducks in a row, we feel comfortable to start the program in the countries. So we're doing it now in 21 countries. A key element of our program is our mentoring and training program, because we also see that We sometimes need to help businesses to understand what it means to supply to Accenture, what it means to participate in sourcing opportunities, which can be very complicated. So we want to help them to understand that so that they really have an equal chance to win a contract at Accenture and also have a long-term relationship with a company like ours. So we're doing that currently in 7 countries. And we see that that's a real key differentiator for our program. So we do have plans to expand that in other countries as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael, would you like to give us a bit more information about WeConnect and your role and your experience to date?
Thank you, Melanie. And hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. So I'm with WeConnect International. I lead the efforts to help identify, certify, recruit efforts for corporations that are getting started with supplier diversity and inclusion outside of the US. We were formed by corporations, including Accenture and Intel, back in 2009, 5-member corporations to actually do this work about identifying and certifying, registering women businesses outside of the US. So we currently have over 50 countries where we certify, meaning that we validate that there are at least 51% owned, managed, and controlled by one or more women. And we have also women businesses registered from over 130 countries. Prior to WeConnect International, I spent most of my career in hospitality industry with Marriott International in operations and was brought in to set up their supplier diversity initiative and took it international. So I really enjoy my role to help work with other corporations to help them start, strategize, and implement their plans for inclusive sourcing. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I suppose your perspective is slightly different to that of Deaneesha, Javette, and Peter, because you sit on the other side of the fence and you're here to support diverse or women-owned businesses to be connected to corporate members. Could you tell us a bit more about the biases that are attached to supplier diversity and how one can overcome that?
Sure. So, and we all have biases, whether they're conscious or unconscious. And so many people are not aware of those biases that they may hold. In our supply chain discussions, we found out that one of our women businesses in Asia said that if she tells the male buyers she's women-owned, they won't buy from her. And so they really started thinking about what are the challenges that exist out there in terms of why aren't women businesses, as an example, or other diverse suppliers being included in the bid process? Is it because the perception that they're not capable, that they're not good at what they do, they're not competitive in price? And this whole world of supplier diversity is about finding the best suppliers, and they have to be competitive in quality, service, and price. No one's going to use a diverse supplier just because they're diverse. However, because of the bias, we found out that there's so many opportunities where, in our case, women businesses could be included in the bid process, but they're not. So a lot of our members have a policy in place now that any time an RFP goes out anywhere in the world, that it has at least one diverse supplier included in the process. And if they can't be found, then the headquarters has to sign off on the process.
What are the main challenges you encounter when setting up or managing or leading the supplier diversity program internally? I guess, Peter, perhaps you'd like to start?
Gosh, I've been doing this for a while, and I do remember that when I started working on this program, a lot of people still have that perception that doing business with a diverse company or a small company is too risky because they're small. They're not ready. Other people, I haven't heard that thankfully lately anymore, but a lot of people used to call it, oh yeah, this is just a corporate citizenship program, it's a nice to have. But thankfully that has changed, I think. Because we are able to show that, especially in current circumstances, we see that the small diverse businesses, they're agile, they're innovative, they are able, if they're addressing a challenge, addressing a crisis, they're able to change their business and still make money. Also, what I see is, and maybe also going back to an earlier question, is why are we doing this? Is also because we're curious. We want to see the innovative businesses in front of us. As a procurement person, I've been a buyer in my professional life. And helping our stakeholders means that we want to bring the right kind of suppliers to our stakeholders. And this is a great program to have to bring those amazing companies to our stakeholders. So turning a challenge into an opportunity is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess it ties in with what Michael was saying about bias, right? And this is small equals risk. No, actually small equals agility, innovative, etc. Deaneesha, Javette, are there other areas aside from biases that you felt were a challenge to begin with or still is a challenge nowadays?
The biggest challenge is bringing every single person in the organization along this journey, right? And I'm finding that that's been one of the biggest things that I've tried to overcome. You find, there's so much of complexity in big corporations. We have more than 100,000 employees. We have multiple business units, cost centers. Money exists everywhere. But the challenge that I find that I'm having is people's approach to it is, if it's not broken, why fix it? They're comfortable using the suppliers that they're using, who they've used for years, no issues with those suppliers. And you almost have to sell the concept of supplier diversity and inclusion to them. And what we found for us is, a tops-down approach absolutely works, right? If it comes from their leadership, then of course it's something that they're willing to get on board with, and they're looking to, to explore. And I think what we found last year is, as we've become more visible, more present, pushing the supply diversity and inclusion agenda, we've seen an uptake in terms of millions. And I'm talking from a marketing perspective, because from a marketing perspective, the business was, 2 years ago, spending under 1% with diverse suppliers. And yet they the spends that they've had was over in excess of $1 billion. And so we found that, by continuing to encourage them, by breaking through all of those barriers, we've managed to overcome some of those challenges.
It really is just a matter, as with any suppliers, you're looking at size, scale, and scope. What are your needs? So if you are very clear about the needs and illuminating what they are, then that provides the opportunity to look for a diverse supplier that can fit that need. But I think one of the things Peter also said when, and I hear this from an HR diversity or diversity perspective as well, when people say they're not ready, also getting people to articulate, well, what does not ready mean? What is it that you're looking for? Tell me what you're looking for, be very clear about it, and then I can find you that right kind of person and or supplier to meet that need. I would also say education, training, and awareness is also what the challenge is, right? I feel that that was some part of the challenge, just not enough education, training, and awareness, and not enough understanding of how supplier diversity is equally aligned to community development, as well as employee or workforce development and engagement as well.
How do you measure success at Intel?
So I think it starts with, if you need people to have a call to action, it's basically implementing certain guardrails or, setting specific targets for people to achieve, right? Is we actually allocated a number to each of these organizations, both in the direct and indirect space. And we said, all right, here's your number. We have the tools, and we've got all these tools where we track and measure, and it's quite a heavy lift. It works really well, like a well-oiled machine, right? We have our diversity program office, and they basically send us the numbers every single quarter, and they say, here's what your numbers are. Go and look at your diverse suppliers and come back and tell us if anything's missing.
Brilliant, thank you. I guess the other element is that when you're getting started, well, firstly, I suppose, where do you start? But also, how do you demonstrate the return on investment in this case?
I think the key thing when you're starting a program is certainly taking a look at what you're spending currently, who your existing suppliers are, but it also is about the relationship building. So I don't want to take away from those soft things that, we might take for granted. Like, we just work with these people. It's really working with an analytics team who does all the data gathering for, the sourcing organization, as an example, and really being able to get that information and to prioritize it and get some ownership, so that it's not just even the sourcing team, but they're working with your lines of business within a firm to also understand, I could make some adjustments, or this contract is going to expire. That's an opportunity for me to think differently and consider a new supplier. Or, this supplier actually, they've been doing business with me for 14 years, but you know what? There are some glitches here. Let me think about some other firms. It provides an opportunity to look for diverse firms, but that's the spend element. The other piece, when you're starting a program, in addition to thinking about spend, I just want to suggest that people think about what are the ways to use your intellectual capital within your firm. So like Peter's mentioned mentor, whether you can do some mentoring or an incubation program, or if you have AI, or if you have, we have City Vendor, you have other things that provide an opportunity to engage or to help build capacity of a diverse firm. And you can do that directly or either working with We Connect or others. That's an additional way to continue to elevate supplier diversity itself, but to elevate a business, right? To help to grow them. And that's an additional metric also that you can start to attach to yourself as a corporation.
And I guess another challenge that we mentioned earlier on is related to awareness within the organization, right? So you all work in very large organizations with a lot of different stakeholders and departments. What are your tips around this? So this is how I started the conversation, right? I opened on this and the fact that there is still little levels of awareness within the organization. How do you manage this? And how do you manage also cross-pollination across different departments and different groups in the organization?
There's also another angle. So Accenture is part of a value chain, right? We have our supply chain on one side, but we also have our clients on the other side. And we often see that our folks that are supporting those clients, they get client requests and say, we have this. And I had a nice example of that actually. A client asked us, we would love to hire more people with autism into our workforce. But how do we go about it? How do we train our colleagues to make sure that these people can fit in the teams that we have? And we knew a diverse business, a disability-owned business, who actually did that. They recruited people and they also trained workforces in this area. So we connected that diverse business. We went to our DSTP program with the client, and they successfully placed people with autism spectrum in that workforce and also helped them to train and be successful. Functioning successful in that workforce. So that way it can also help. So it doesn't, for us, it's not only helping us, but we can also apply it to how we support our clients. And it's a great way of connecting our business with our diverse supply chain. And one other thing we look at from a responsible buying perspective is that we're not only looking at diverse suppliers, but also at inclusive suppliers. So in some countries, we also need to make sure that we hire companies that use, for instance, persons with disabilities in their workforce to offer services to Accenture. So that's another angle that we're looking at. And also, for instance, I'm also running a program to ensure that all the technology that Accenture uses from my suppliers is accessible for persons with disabilities. So we also check with all those suppliers that we hire that deliver the technology to us to make sure that it is up to the right kind of accessibility standards. So there's a lot of ways that our team and our program can support Accenture's ambitions around inclusion and diversity and sustainability. And to Javette's points about sustainability is we actually also added sustainability to our mentoring and training program, because we also see a great need for the diverse businesses to learn more about how they can apply sustainability to their business.
And so I'll let you all take it in turns and share perhaps one piece of advice. If people watching are, starting their journey, what do you think they should know and what they should be doing, perhaps thinking about?
For someone starting their journey, starting a new supplier diversity program, I would say, definitely take a look at what your corporation is already focused on with respect to diversity, equity, inclusion, and sustainability. And then mirror the same language so that you can tie in supplier diversity, tie it in so that it represents the same. You're looking at the same people. We're looking at minorities, women, people with disabilities, LGBT community, and veterans. And the additional sweeter piece of this is that from a supplier diversity perspective, now you're talking about your corporation's ability to make an economic impact itself, but also to help other diverse suppliers make an economic impact in their community. And then for diverse women-owned businesses who are interested, become a part of We Connect. If you are not already a part of We Connect, you get the benefit of workshops, building capacity, getting to work not just simply with corporations, but other women-owned businesses as well.
Yeah, and I think there is, Michael knows this as well, there's We Connect created this great gold standard of starting your own supply diversity program. And I think it's even for everybody available on the website, but I would definitely talk with Michael as well. when you want to start your program. And I think it's very important that and that's how we did it. We look at the countries or the markets where you can make the most impact. I think earlier in the session, I talked about the checkpoints that we have before we move into a country with our program. We're trying to get those as all checked as much as possible, because then we know that we can make the best impact. Make sure that we have leadership engagement locally. Make sure that you have people on the ground you can work with who can help you drive the program. I'm in Amsterdam. I'm not in Dubai. I need somebody in Dubai to help me run that program there, because they know exactly what is needed there. And that way I can, in the best way, support them to deliver. And I think that's how you start. And by doing that, you're creating success, and that success you can share with others within your company in other countries. And they see that and they go like, hey, wow, this is inspiring. I can do that. I can maybe do that for my country as well. And then they reach out to you. And I've seen that a lot already. And that's how we were able to grow into all these countries, because people see the success that others have, and likely positive peer pressure as well, because they get recognized for their achievements, and that's how we started building that program. But start creating best practices first, and build on that.
Yeah, concur with everything you've both said. I think agree. I think start off. There's so much of value and benefit that you get from working with NGOs like We Connect, right? There's so much of content. There's industry practices. There's sharing sessions. I'd say continue to leverage those relationships that you have. You'll also have access to the corporate member network, right? So if you want to have a one-on-one with me or with Peter or the Javette, just reach out to us and say, hey, right, we're building our program. But also start small, right? Understand what's within your capability to deliver. Time yourself, set up specific milestones of what you're looking to achieve. You're not going to solve world hunger in a day. So you got to pace yourself, look at where your biggest spends exist, right? Where's most of the money being spent? And then look at building a program, in one space, and then slowly expand. And then, leverage your peer network, attend as many of these sessions as you can to learn as much as you can. A lot of the corporations that you see here it has quite a mature program, and there's so much of things that we can share with you.
But I'd say one of the other key takeaways for me is making sure that you have advocates that are going to be passionate champions within the organization. There will be a lot of resistance, that people have biases, they don't understand why this is happening, and it's hard to make this successful unless you have those champions within your organization that are going to work with you to help move this forward.